Hey everyone, thank you for stopping by and checking out my page. I've been doing monthly postings all year long on various topics, staying with the same topic each month. And I cannot believe we are halfway through 2021 already. June is over, and all month in June, I was talking about anti-inflammatory diets. Well, I wanted to sit down today and make a video for those who maybe missed a posting or you don't want to go through and watch or read all of the postings. So we're going to go through and talk about what those postings were about. So thank you for watching this video. If you haven't met me, my name is Jennifer Hernandez, and I support people who are motivated to improve their health. Today, we're going to talk about what chronic inflammation means for your body, why you're hearing about it more and more. And then we're going to look at how an anti-inflammatory diet can help you to reduce inflammation, control, manage, and postpone diseases associated with chronic inflammation. Now, sometimes it's easier to make small changes instead of overhauling your diet. So we're going to talk about some things you can do and just think about how you can make those small changes to improve your health. Now, for those of you who don't know me, like I said, my name is Jennifer Hernandez, and I am a registered dietitian nutritionist and a dietetic educator. I also have spent my entire life dealing with chronic pain. And some of that pain has come from chronic inflammation. I also struggle with chronic headache and daily headache and chronic migraine. And through changes in my diet and supplements that I take, I have been able to control and manage my headaches as well as manage my chronic pain. And I would love to help anyone else who is dealing with any kind of issue related to chronic inflammation. So first of all, let's talk about inflammation. We hear a lot about the anti-inflammatory properties of food and of beverages. And you probably have heard that red wine has anti-inflammatory properties, right? So you probably know that fish, green leafy vegetables, colorful vegetables, and other foods are anti-inflammatory foods. But let's talk a little bit about why that is. We're also going to talk about some spices and seasonings that you can use that help with inflammation. And you maybe have heard about turmeric. It's one that's highly promoted. There are some controversial studies about turmeric, so it might not be all that it's cracked up to be. But we definitely want to learn more about what inflammation is, when it's good, when it's bad, and what we can do to control inflammation. So what is inflammation? Well, inflammation is a natural part of the body's healing systems, right? It's part of that natural process of how we heal ourselves. So perhaps you've gotten a paper cut, right? Or some sort of injury, and the skin gets red and inflamed, right? Literally inflammation. Well, that is our body calling those healing molecules to that wound and telling the body to heal it. And when that happens, that's actually a good thing. We want that to happen, right? We want that cut to heal. We want that injury to heal. But sometimes we get inflammation in the body that's called chronic inflammation, and where we just have this low grade chronic inflammatory response going on in the body. We can see that with elevated C-reactive protein or CRP, low glutathione. That might not be a normal one that you have on a lab test. I need to get my test done because it's been like 3 and maybe even 4 years ago now. Time has flown with this crazy pandemic. But I had a micronutrient test looking at the levels of micronutrients in my body. And my glutathione, which is a natural antioxidant in the body, was 0. And so I've made some changes to my supplements. I need to retake that test and see if my glutathione levels have gone up. But anyway, chronic inflammation is not good, right? Acute or short-term inflammation is good, but chronic inflammation is not good. And chronic inflammation has been linked to a lot of chronic diseases. everything from cancer, heart disease, inflammatory bowel, psoriatic arthritis, diabetes, Alzheimer's. Pneumonia is actually an inflammation of the lungs, right? So we can see inflammation rearing its ugly head in so many ways. The effects of chronic inflammation in the body can be hair loss, depression, skin conditions, but often that chronic inflammation is completely undetectable. You might not even know that you have it unless you go to the doctor and they check certain labs, like I said, like C-reactive protein. All right, so we don't want to get rid of inflammation completely, right? We don't want to kill that acute inflammatory response that heals up cuts and wounds, but we do want to diminish or lessen chronic inflammation in the body. So how can we do that? Well, before we get there, depression, right? There's a study from the Emory School of Medicine. I can post references if anybody wants to see them, but it ties depression to inflammation. Now, I am totally not saying that doing an anti-inflammatory diet will cure depression, right? But like right now, we are all under so much stress and life is so crazy that an anti-inflammatory diet just might help. But again, not saying it's going to cure your depression. All right, so now let's talk about anti-inflammatory foods and your health. So when we have inflammation, we have white blood cells that are coming to some area of injury in the body, and they release chemicals, right? And this helps our body to remove toxic cells, toxic molecules, pathogens like bacteria and viruses that can make us sick. And it helps to repair that damaged tissue, right? That injury. So like I said, that inflammation when we have an injury is a good thing. But what we want to do is to control chronic inflammation so that we don't have chronic inflammation all the time. Now, there are certain foods that are generally thought to be inflammatory, right? So foods that create an inflammatory response in the body tend to be things like white bread, cakes, cookies that are made with white flour, chips and other fried foods, sodas, soft drinks, red and processed meats, margarine and other spreads like that. So we want to use 100% whole grains, omega-3 rich foods like walnuts, flaxseed, chia, hemp, fish, unsaturated oils like olive oil, right? Look for things that avoid corn syrup, partially hydrogenated oils, refined white flours. Now, foods that we want to eat, because let's face it, it's much more fun to talk about things we can have than things we can't, right? So, anti-inflammatory foods that are typically recommended. So again, these are things that in the general population are anti-inflammatory. Things like tomatoes, olive oil, green leafy vegetables, spinach, kale, collards, right? Nuts like almonds and walnuts, fatty fish like salmon, tuna, fruits like strawberries, blueberries, cherries, and oranges. Any coffee lovers out there? I have some good news for you. Coffee contains molecules called polyphenols and other things that are anti-inflammatory. And so coffee may help protect you against inflammation. Berries and brightly colored fruits and vegetables also have polyphenols. They're high in natural antioxidants. And so these can all help to reduce inflammation. Now, when you think about these foods, is this beginning to sound a bit like the Mediterranean diet? So if you're not familiar with the Mediterranean diet, it's high in fruit, vegetables, nuts, whole grains, fish, and healthy oils. Well, guess what? The anti-inflammatory diet has a lot in common with the Mediterranean diet. Now, again, thinking about those foods, is there anything on that list that doesn't work for you? Well, for me personally, tomatoes and strawberries are not my friend. They don't get along with my body. So even though generally population-wide speaking, those foods are anti-inflammatory, they're actually inflammatory for me. And that's going to run into what we're going to talk about for the whole month of July, which is elimination diets and figuring out what foods don't work for your body. But that's the topic moving forward and not for right this minute. All right, so let's break down some of these things that are found in our foods. So vitamin K, it's the blood clotting vitamin, right? It's found in green leafy vegetables, in some oils, and some fruits. There was a 1-year study that was published in the Cardiovascular Diabetology Journal. So it's a journal for practitioners who work with heart disease and diabetes. And they saw that risk factors for inflammation were reduced by 30% when vitamin K levels were increased to 70 micrograms per day. Now, for any of you out there on blood thinners, please do not increase your vitamin K intake without working with a healthcare provider, because those things are going to compete with one another and you could be setting yourself up for some problems. Now, research published in the Journal of Nutrition has shown that women in particular will see anti-inflammatory effects from a diet high in whole grains. And this includes lowering that C-reactive protein that I was talking about before. Now, whole grains, we're talking about minimally processed oats, whole wheat, if you can eat wheat. That's a whole nother story for another day too, because there's some issues with wheat and gluten. Spelt, einkorn wheat, these are all ancient grains that would be great. Again, we want those whole grains. Now, omega-3 fatty acids, you've probably heard of them. They're found in fish oil supplements, as well as in flax and flax oil supplements. We really don't know how much omega-3 a person needs in order to see anti-inflammatory benefits. We're just pretty sure that omega-3s are good and omega-6s are bad. And omega-6s are going to be found in like corn oil, the generic vegetable oil, and in a lot of processed foods. Now, vitamin D you may have heard of. Sometimes it's called the sunlight vitamin or the sunshine vitamin, right? And vitamin D has been shown to help control inflammation. We used to tell people that 20 minutes out in the sun per day and you'll make all the vitamin D that your body needs. Well, there's a lot of caveats to that. First, you need a functional liver and functional kidneys to convert the molecules to the active form of vitamin D. But also where you live makes a big impact on how well your body can convert. Cholesterol is what it converts, but cholesterol to vitamin D. Now, I live in Arizona. It's sunny like 360 days out of the year. And even my vitamin D was marginal. So get your vitamin D levels checked and see if maybe you need a supplement. All right, so let's move on. And I mentioned turmeric, right? So turmeric comes from the plant curcumin. Now, this is not the same as cumin, right? That's used in a lot of Mexican foods. I'm sure it's in other foods as well. Now, turmeric you can see is this orangey yellow spice. And it is a dominant flavor in a lot of Indian curries and cuisine. Now, there are tons, like hundreds of articles on the internet on the impacts of turmeric on inflammation. But when we look at medical journals and recent scientific studies, there might not be actual health benefits associated with turmeric by itself. It's not really easily absorbed by the body. There are no good double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials, which is really the gold standard of scientific research, that support anti-inflammatory claims associated with turmeric. It has been demonstrated to be safe, Curcumin may have some anti-inflammatory properties. Now, if you are interested in a supplement because you feel like you already eat as well as you care to, right? I can direct you to some scientific research as well as some supplements that are going to be much better for reducing inflammation than taking just a turmeric supplement alone. So if you want to know about that, tell me more, not hit, but type tell me more, throw it in the chat, and I would love to help you out with that. All right, so let's talk about what to eat. Specifically speaking, we know fruits and vegetables are good for us, right? We know they help to fight chronic disease. We know that they help with inflammation. Now, this can be really challenging because in the United States, most people do not eat enough fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to throw some numbers out here, and they may be nowhere close to what you're currently eating. That's fine. Cut it in half, right? Or add 1 serving a day until you get up to that goal, right? So our goal for fresh or frozen fruits are going to be 3 to 4 servings a day. Now, a serving is like a half a cup or a small fruit. For vegetables, 4 to 5 servings a day of either raw or cooked. Cooked, it's going to, again, be about a half a cup serving. Raw, it's going to be a cup. Okay, so fruits, what are some good fruits? Well, berries, raspberries, strawberries, peaches, nectarines, oranges, grapefruits, grapes, plums, pomegranates, blackberries, cherries, apples, pears, right? All of these are antioxidant-rich foods that also have things in them that are called phytochemicals or phytonutrients that help to reduce inflammation and increase antioxidant activity in the body. For our vegetables, those dark leafy greens, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, carrots, beets, onions, peas, squash, all of those are great choices, as well as those beta carotene orange vegetables, right? So sweet potatoes, carrots, butternut squash, pumpkin, cantaloupe, that's a fruit. But you get the gist, right? Really what we want to do is eat a variety of colors of fruits and vegetables, and that way we're getting all of our nutrients as well as the variety of those phytonutrients or phytochemicals. Now, again, like I said, you may not be used to eating this many fruits and vegetables. Just try something new, right? Pick a new one, go to the grocery store, see something you've never tried, just buy one, try it out and see if you like it. All right, now let's talk about beans, pasta, and whole grains. This one may be a little bit easier than trying to get that goal on fruits and vegetables. So beans and legumes, you know, there's all kinds of beans out there that you can have: black beans, chickpeas, black-eyed peas, lentils. A rule of thumb is to aim for 1 to 2 servings per day. Pastas, we want organic pasta, rice noodles, bean thread noodles, whole wheat, buckwheat noodles. I can't eat wheat because I have a wheat allergy, and so I have some quinoa pasta. I actually have the bag downstairs in my kitchen because I need to find that quinoa pasta again. So those would be good choices in place of just regular white pasta. You can do whole or cracked grains, 3 to 5 servings of, say, brown rice, basmati rice, wild rice, buckwheat, quinoa, steel-cut oats, right? Those would be good things to add to your day. Now, have you ever heard of Meatless Monday, right? And don't tune out just too fast, right? But going meatless just 1 time a week can really improve our health, right? And so an easy way to go meatless would be to have a bean day. And if you make a large enough batch, you can have beans as your main course one day, and then you can have the leftovers for your side dish, right? And there's lots of choices, again, on how you can make that happen in your eating plan. All right, how do you feel about fish and soy in your diet? or in your eating plan. I don't like the D word because I don't want you to think about weight loss. When I say diet, I'm just talking about the things that you eat. All right, so we want to include these foods because they have great health benefits to us. Not saying you can't ever, have a cheeseburger or a steak, but we just don't want to eat them as often. So when we talk about healthy fats, the fats that are good for us, because there are fats that are good for us, we want things that are high in omega-3 fatty acids. So we want nuts and walnuts, that's a nut, almonds, pecans, avocados, and we can have seeds, right, like sunflower seeds. We want salmon and tuna, and then whole soy foods, right? So every time we get sushi, we get my daughter edamame because she just loves it. And then of course we want to use extra virgin olive oil to cook in. Just be careful you don't turn it too hot because it has a high smoke point. You can also have tofu, soy milk, all kinds of other things that make for a healthy diet. All right, so as we look at spices, there are a ton of spices that you can use that are gonna season up your food and also have some anti-inflammatory properties. So we talked about turmeric already, but there's also curry powder, ginger, garlic, chili peppers, basil, cinnamon, rosemary, thyme. All of these are gonna be great additions to your food. Selenium is a mineral that maybe you've never heard of before, but selenium has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties, and we're gonna find that. We wanna get it from food, we don't wanna get it from supplements, and we're gonna find that in things like Brazil nuts, tuna, oysters, tilapia, cod, shrimp, turkey, wheat germ, and whole grains. We already talked about coffee, right? Well, white, green, and oolong teas are going to be your best choices. They're going to be better than black tea in terms of anti-inflammatory properties. And of course, you want to drink water abundantly throughout the day. Now, red wine, obviously we want to make sure that we're using it responsibly. So 1 to 2 glasses per day maximum if it's appropriate for your age and your personal life. There are definitely some high quality supplements. Not everything that you can buy on the store shelf, especially at your big box retail store, is going to be a high quality supplement. The things that you might want to look into are multivitamins, vitamin D, fish oil supplements. I actually take all of those and more. If you want to learn about high quality supplements, again, just throw tell me more into the chat. All right, so I know it's much more fun. I should have done the what not to eat before the what to eat, but let's talk foods to avoid. Again, we're talking about generalities here, right? And the typical population, but omega-6 fatty acids, these are going to be in processed foods, fast foods, corn, safflower, and again, that generic vegetable oil. Dairy products tend to be very inflammatory for most people. And so lactose containing dairy products, so milk, cheese, may be inflammatory for your body. And sometimes the toxins that we can't digest and eliminate through our colon, through our feces, are going to escape from the skin, and you're going to have a rash or acne. Okay, so if you've got some of those skin conditions, it may be inflammation from something that you're eating. Red meats like beef and pork are very difficult. Some people have a lot of trouble with those things as well. And then just sweets in general are empty calories that we don't really need and can be inflammatory. Saturated and trans fats as well. Not all saturated fats are bad, but trans fats are not good and not really necessary in the body. Artificial sweeteners like aspartame and Splenda, and not the greatest for the body. Stevia, agave are much better choices. And then of course, anything processed, we really want to limit. All right, so like I said before, this does sound a lot like the Mediterranean diet. They have a lot in common. If you're not super familiar with the Mediterranean diet, well, it emphasizes primarily plant-based foods, so a high emphasis on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and nuts. It emphasizes replacing margarine and things like that with healthy fats like olive oil. We want to use herbs and spices to season our food, reduce the amount of salt we're eating, limit red meat to no more than just a couple of times a month. That one might be a hard one, right? Hits right here. Eating fish and chicken at least twice a week. There's also a very social aspect of the Mediterranean diet. Enjoying your meals with family and friends is very important. Not only just for physical health, but for mental health as well. All right, well, that wraps up our month of June on the anti-inflammatory diet. So I want to thank you for listening. I love sharing this topic with people who are eager to transform their health. And so thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I would love to work with you if you are interested in reducing inflammation. If you would love for me to develop an online course on anti-inflammatory diets, it'll also include some of the stuff we're going to talk about this month on elimination diets. Put online course in the comments. If you would like to have some one-on-one coaching on how to implement these changes to your eating patterns, then message me, right? You can message me directly. You can put it in the comments and I'll reach out to you. But I would love to help you out with your health needs. All right, so thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.